Hello, thank you for joining us today. This video is a recording of a recent presentation on how to make your new high school year a success with San Jose Public Library's resources. All resources mentioned in this recording are currently available with your San Jose Public Library card. This PowerPoint presentation was co-created by Megan Hicks, Electronic Resources Librarian. Today's presenter is Elizabeth Allen, Education and Programming Services Librarian. We hope that you find these resources useful in your new academic year.
So, welcome. Today we are going to be talking about some library resources that we have for high school success. I'm going to be focusing today on high schoolers. Obviously, a lot of the tools and resources I'm going to be showing you today actually work well for middle school and elementary school, but today I'm going to focus in on high schoolers. Feel free to ask any questions you might have about other grades or other resources or anything like that. Today we're going to be focusing mostly on online resources, but before we get started with that, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. General library resources, general things that to know about the library or things that you might not be aware of with the library. One is that the library has introduced e-library cards. So if you or your family has one card for your whole family, and you're realizing that with the move to electronic resources, that's just not cutting it. You need more room on the card to check out electronic resources, or you need people to be able to use the card at the same time. I would definitely encourage heading over to this page that I've got right here, sjpl.org/membership. This has a rundown of our 3 types of library cards. Our full library card, the traditional one that you would have gotten if you came into the library before we shut down because of coronavirus precautions. That library card isn't currently available, but we do have 2 library cards that are available. The first one is an e-library card, and that library card is just a general access to any of our electronic resources, so you get full borrowing privileges of those electronic resources. And if you're an adult, you can actually provide proof of membership, proof of identity via email, and get a temporary library card, which will allow you some access to print resources as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit on the next page. We do now have access to print resources. If you haven't taken advantage of Express Pickup, it's our service to get access to those print resources even while the library is shut down and you can't maybe come in and browse those. And then I just put in a couple of bits of information about contacting us, just our general contact page, and then also linking to our chat with a librarian page. Honestly, both Tiffany Garcia and myself, we both staff that chat reference line on occasion, and there's nothing that we love more than being able to answer questions or anything like that. So, you know, if you're hesitant, oh, I don't want to bother them, that sort of thing, please bring any questions you have or difficulties that you're running into to that chat with a librarian line. We love to answer questions. That's kind of what we love as a librarian. So please do feel free to take advantage of that resource. And then when it comes to checking out items from the library, like I said, for the majority of today, I'm going to be talking about resources that are strictly online, nothing physical at all. But I did want to call out our Express Pickup service. If you haven't taken advantage of this, you can now place up to 30 items on hold at a time. And then when they're ready, you will receive a notice to go to the nearest Express Pickup location and pick up your items. Now, that may not be the branch you normally use, your home branch. It may be a branch that's nearby. But 17 of our 25 branches are open for Express Pickup. So we do have most branches now at this point open for Express Pickup. And so definitely there will be something close to you. You can also change your Express Pickup location if that one doesn't work for you, but there's one that's nearer to maybe your work or where you go to shop so that you can combine errands and you want to do that. You can also change where it goes as well. But that's fantastic, especially if you do want to get access to those print resources or even just print or DVDs, CDs for entertainment purposes. I do, absolutely encourage you to check that out. And then the events page. So if you made it here today, you probably have seen our events and programs page. So that is a place where you can go and check out all of our great virtual events like this one, as well as programs for kids, arts and crafts, performing arts, science programs, math programs, coding programs. And starting next Monday, they're going to be offering homework help in the afternoon. So kind of like our old homework club that we held in branches, that's going to be for K through 8 students. But if you do have high schoolers, or if you are a high schooler and you're interested in volunteering, they are looking for tutors ages 15 and up who can make that time commitment to volunteer as a tutor. And then finally, the thing that I like to mention on our website, and this is sort of on our website, so it does talk about electronic resources, but maybe print resources as well, is the finding your next read. I know that a lot of folks are used to being able to come into the library and come to the desk and sort of start chatting about books that have come out, recommendations that the library staff may have for them. You're used to being able to walk in and see the new books, see what's on the new bookshelf and what's newly available. And of course, with the library closed, none of that is available right now. So I just wanted to mention this as something that you might want to check out that lets you take a look at new books, at recommended books, and get those reading recommendations. So I'm here on the San Jose Public Library website, sjpl.org. And right in the middle here, there's a menu item that says Books and eLibrary. And I'm going to hover over this and then go to Books and More. So this is going to take me to a page that has a whole bunch of stuff about books, new items, recommendations, award winners, all of these sorts of things. So things that we've recently added to our collection, whether or not they're newly published. Some of them, of course, are newly published books. Some of them may be older books that we've just recently gotten. Bestsellers, award winners, so that's exactly what it sounds like, lists of best-selling books and award-winning books. And this does have a lot of award winners in here. So if you've read a book that's won a particular award and you absolutely loved it, you can actually come in here and see, oh, you know, I really love this one that won the Hugo Award. Let me see what else has won the Hugo Award. Also on this page are staff picks. I'm going to go back to this in just a second, but these are actually lists of books recommended by our staff members at SJPL. And then finally, the personal reading recommendations. This is a great service. You have the ability to come in here, fill out a little form that tells a little bit of information about you, your age, the type of things you'd like to read in the past, what you're interested in reading more and less of, and then a librarian will be in contact with you with a recommendation list of 5 new books that you might be interested in. So I mentioned the staff picks here. So underneath the staff picks, these are actually lists right in our catalog of books that the staff has chosen to highlight and put into these lists. So for kids, there's age level or grade level reading recommendation lists all the way up through 7th grade. There's also recommendations for adults, for very young children between 0 and 5. And then we have a whole bunch of lists here just for teens. So some of them are topical things, like we've got a Black Lives Matter list here for teens. Some of them have to do with formats, so things like manga or audiobook recommendations for teens. And then there's topic-based ones like high fantasy, romantic comedies, and things like that. So I'm just going to click in here through to audiobooks for teens. Just to give you an idea of what this looks like. So this is actually in our catalog. It's been put together by SJPL staff members. And you can see this is talking about audiobooks, and it lists things as currently available or not currently available, sort of gives you an estimation of what's going on there. But you can also go and click through. So I'm going to click through here on Long Way Down. And I saw that it wasn't available in its audiobook format because this was, of course, listed as an audiobook pick. But if you were still interested in reading it in print or as an electronic book, you can see those editions are available. So this actually takes you through to the full catalog record and tells you exactly what copies are or aren't available. And another great way to use this, if you click through to one of the records and you like this book, but maybe you've already read it before and you looked at the other things on the list, you can also see any other lists that are recommended. You can read reviews about it, and you can also get recommendations for other books that are very similar. So if I look at Long Way Down here, I've got some recommendations for other books. I've got some subject headings, and then I see all the lists that it's a part of. So this is a really great way to sort of browse around and find things that you might like to read next, or start with something you already enjoy and look for more. things that you might enjoy as well. So I'm going to come back in here. So that's just a little bit about the library, just sort of talking about some stuff that's available just on our website or services that we're offering even during closure. So let's get started talking about electronic resources. I'm just going to go on through. Feel free to pop into the chat and ask any questions, or we're a fairly small group. You can also unmute yourself, and like Ms. Garcia mentioned, we'll try and cut you out of the recording as well. So electronic resources for high school students. So electronic resources come in a variety of forms, but one thing they all have in common is that they are in fact all digital. So these aren't anything physical that you can check out of the library or anything like that. These are all available online. Because they're all online or all electronic copies, it means that they're available all the time. So this is absolutely fantastic for those times when you realize, or maybe you were trying not to realize that you had work due the next day. You can go online, do your research using reliable resources that the library provides, and still be able to deliver your schoolwork the next day. They're sometimes called, librarians will call them electronic resources. They're also sometimes just called shortened to e-resources, as you commonly see with eBooks or things like that. And there's lots of different types. So one thing that we talk about sometimes is electronic media or e-media. And we talk about this in sort of in terms of like entire books or things like that. So we've got eBooks and electronic audiobooks. So these are exactly what they sound like. It's the sound files. You can stream them online, or you can download them to listen to on your device later. We also have things that are more like databases. So these are collections of articles, encyclopedia entries, photos, videos, all on certain topics that you can search. These are usually like nonfiction, so these are great for schoolwork or just any topic that you happen to be interested in. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about those later. And then finally, there's also services that we subscribe to through the library for the benefit of our patrons. One of them that I'm going to talk about again is tutor.com, which is actually an online tutoring service that we allow card users to have access to. You get a certain number of sessions every single week if you're an SJPL card holder, but it's more of a service than it is a resource or something where you can look things up. So one of the best reasons to use electronic resources, I mean, obviously there's tons of help with any sort of questions that you have, projects that you have going on. For high schoolers in particular who are facing down AP tests, standardized tests for college, college prep, college applications, all of that sort of stuff, there's also resources there. So it's really great because you have both stuff that can help you now and then stuff that can help you prepare for that future. So what do you need to get started? In terms of the e-resources, obviously we need an internet connection and some sort of device. So today I'm going to be showing you things on a computer. I'm going to be sharing my browser. So I'm just going to show you things looking at them through the browser. Some of the resources I'm going to be showing you actually do have apps that are, you know, a way into these resources so that you don't have to go and sit down at something with the browser or pull it up on the browser. There's actually an app where you can sort of natively open up books. I'm going to mention any resources that do have apps that work on tablets or smartphones, but I'm going to be showing you the browser version of everything that we're going to be looking at today. Everything that we have through the library is absolutely free to use. And one thing I'm going to be mentioning, when I go through the book searches and I'm looking at books and audiobooks and comic books and things like that, everything that we have through these resources are searchable through the catalog. These titles, they are available. You can find them in the catalog, with the exception of one of our services, Hoopla, which I'm going to mention later. So I'll show you how that does and doesn't show up. So to get started, you basically just need that internet connection and something that can, a device that you can use to connect to the internet. So talking first about electronic media, so sort of those books, those movies, audiobooks, things like that. I'm going to take a look first at the Overdrive service. Overdrive actually has two apps. They have an older app that's just called Overdrive, and then they have a newer app called Libby. So you might know it by either name. Either one of the apps that you use, I find both of them fairly user-friendly. Libby's their new redesigned version. Where I think Libby really shines is if you're like me, you probably have a library card to more than one library system. And I find it easy in Libby to switch back and forth between my multiple library cards. So that's really nice because you can say, well, maybe if Santa Clara City doesn't have it, maybe SJPL has it, maybe Santa Clara County has it. You know, you can sort of hop around and check if you have library cards with multiple systems. It's definitely the most used and the largest of the resources, of the ebook resources that we have. So Libby has about 3,000 checkouts per day. The Overdrive service has about 3,000 checkouts per day. And it has ebooks. That does include comic books and graphic novels in that ebooks category. And it also has e-audiobooks. So it has books that are sort of recorded books or books on CD or tape, if you're very old like me and remember the books on cassette tape in your car. You can have out 10 items on Overdrive at one time. So you can have that little bookshelf filled up with 10 items checked out on Overdrive through this library system. And what's cool about Overdrive is if you do have that as 10 items checked out and you find something else that you want, you can return something and free up a spot and check out your other one. So there is the ability to manage sort of how many items you have checked out. Everything's checked out for 3 weeks, and then you can read it online through the browser if you want to. So if you don't want to download the app, or if you're using a laptop or something like that, you can read it in the browser, but you can download it if you have one of the apps and you have a tablet or a smartphone. You can download the whole book or the whole audiobook. So let's take a look at Overdrive and check it out. So I'm going to come back here to the library homepage, sjpl.org. And I'm going to go here where I went before for books and eLibrary, but I'm going to go to the center column here and click on eBooks. Now, I mentioned that Overdrive has e-audiobooks as well, so it has downloadable audiobooks. So it's also listed under e-audiobooks, but they split out all of these so that people who were looking for just ebooks or just audiobooks could find exactly what they were looking for. Anything that has more than one will be listed in each of these categories. So I'm going to click on ebooks, however, and we're going to scroll down, and you can see we do have quite a few places where you can get ebooks. Some of these are very specialized, like Safari books are books just about technology and programming and things like that. Overdrive has more fiction than nonfiction, and the nonfiction it does have is sort of your more popular nonfiction. So there's lots of help files here, and like I said, I always encourage people, if you're having issues, feel free to hop on to chat and chat to a librarian as well if you're having trouble with any of that. At the bottom of each of our home pages, you can see there's a little chat bubble down here, and you can just hop on and ask any questions you have. So I'm just going to click on Overdrive, and it will take me straight through. I'm actually already signed in to Overdrive here, but let me just show you sign out, what it looks like to sign in. So I'm just going to click on the sign in right here, and I just put in my library card number and my PIN. And that's all I need to do to sign in. So there's nothing extra to sign up for. There's no forms that you have to fill out or anything like that. You just put in your library card number and your PIN. Now, if you go straight to Overdrive without coming through our website, or if you download the Overdrive app, they'll first ask you what library system you're coming from, and then they'll ask you for your library card number and PIN. So here we are on the Overdrive homepage, and this homepage has a lot of book lists. So one of the things that's great about Overdrive is they have some great curated lists of their own here available on all sorts of topics, and as you can see, definitely some topical subjects as well. And then there's tabs for both kids and teens. I'm just going to hop over here to the teens tab. If you start a search from the Teens tab, it will return you only books for teens, which is kind of nice. So you can hop over here to the Teens tab and search. Also over here on the Teens tab, again, you see a whole bunch of curated lists of books that you might be interested in, topical lists, Black authors, new stuff. So these are new things that have been added. Summer books, again, we're just here at the tail end of summer. So it's really great. Again, anything that you can do, like getting new recommendations, is always a good thing. You can also search. So I'm going to search for that book that we found in the audiobook reading list long way down. And I'm just going to click there on that title. And you can see that the audiobook, which is actually what was recommended, is on the wait list, but that their ebook copy is available. And this follows what we saw in the catalog. So our catalog actually often has a live version of whether or not that ebook is available or not. Sometimes you have to come to the database to check it out, to the collection of ebooks to check it out, but a lot of times it will tell you whether or not something's available. If you're interested in something that's checked out, you can place a hold, or you can see right here, you can go ahead and borrow it right from the search results page if you already know what you want. If you don't know what you want, you can go ahead and click on the title, or you're not sure that this is the book that you're looking for. You can come in here, find out a description, see more details, including things like reviews, some subjects that it's available to. Here it says listen to a sample. So this sample will either be read a sample or listen to a sample, and that's available whether or not the book is available. So unlike where a library where you might not be able to walk into the library and read a sample of a book that's checked out because it's not there, here, even if it's checked out, you can still read or listen to a sample to decide if it's really what you want, and then you can place a hold if you're interested, or you can even just add it to your wish list. One other thing that I like to mention about these books is that you can go in here under search and go to advanced, and where I was mentioning things about the reading level or the subjects, you can actually search in a more advanced way. You can search just for award winners, you can search just for books on certain topics, you can even, it has a date added here, so you can see just new books or new items that are available in this collection, which is really great. So you can, if you're like me and like a really avid reader, you can see like, ooh, what have they just added, and get that inside line. So that's Overdrive, and if anybody has a question on it, feel free to drop it into the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and move on and show you a couple more of our e-book or e-media resources. The other one that I like to mention, especially for teens and adults, is CloudLibrary. So CloudLibrary works kind of like our Lucky Day app. Lucky Day books collection in the library, in that these are books that are very popular titles for both teens and adults. It's more adults, but there is a fair selection of YA titles. So there's, you can read it in the browser, or there is a CloudLibrary app. Books have a short checkout time here. So just like our Lucky Day books, they've got a really short checkout time. They're very popular titles. And so what we do is we buy a couple extra copies and encourage people to turn those over pretty quickly. There's no holds on this. Overdrive, you can place holds, get in line, sort of wait your turn. Here, you know, these do not have holds. So it's really kind of like our Lucky Day shelf. It's what's available at the time that you check it out. And then finally, I want to mention Hoopla. If you have a kid, or if you yourself are a huge fan of graphic novels, I always recommend Hoopla. Hoopla has a couple of distinct things about it. So Hoopla is always available. So I kind of think of it like Netflix for ebooks and e-audiobooks, books, movies, and CDs, in that we don't get to choose what's in Hoopla, same as you don't get to choose what's offered through Netflix. We buy a collection, and what's in the collection is what's in the collection. So sometimes we will have the new copy of the latest and greatest book. Sometimes we won't. Even if it's a really popular book, you know, we don't really get to choose to add to it. We just buy the whole package. But on the flip side of that, just like Netflix, nothing is ever unavailable. So when we were on Overdrive, we saw that the audiobook copy of Long Way Down was checked out and had a wait list. So you'd have to wait if you wanted to listen to that audiobook copy. If it is available in Hoopla, it's not going to be ever checked out. It's like Netflix, there's no limits. There are limits on your checkouts though. So Hoopla will allow you to check out 10 items per month. So it's not like Overdrive where it's 10 items at a time and you could return something in order to free up a slot. It's 10 items total. So I'm going to show you my little tip when I show you Hoopla here real quick, because I like to add things to my Hoopla favorites list before I choose to check them out. I'm going to go here to Books and eLibrary again. We're back here on the SJPL homepage, and I'm going to go to eBooks again. And this time I'm going to scroll down. And there's Overdrive, but we're going to go to Hoopla here. Hoopla does have an app for both tablet and smartphone. I use Hoopla for two main types of media. One is comic books and manga, and the other is audiobooks. And I would have to say I use Hoopla a lot for audiobooks. So actually the way I see Hoopla is usually not even on a tablet, but on my smartphone, because I check out the audiobook, I download it to my smartphone, and then I just listen to it as I go about my day. So here we are. I'm already signed in here to Hoopla, so you can see I don't have anything currently borrowed right now. Hoopla is a pretty easy sign up process. It's not just your library card and PIN number. You do have to create an account with your email address and create a password to go with that. But after that, all it asks you is what library system you're from and then your library card and PIN number. So it's a fairly short sign up process. It's not too long. Now, Hoopla has a browse ability, so I'm just going to go here to comics just to show you. And it has over 14,000, actually almost 15,000 comic books and graphic novels. These can be fairly short. Sometimes it's just like an issue of comics. Sometimes it's a very long collected volume of comics or a full graphic novel. So these really vary in length. You can see there's a children's titles toggle over here, so you can click it on and see just the children's ones. There were just under 4,000 for the kids ones. So the collection is pretty large. There's a lot of stuff available through Hoopla, and like I said, none of it is ever checked out, so it's nice because it's always available. In addition to browsing Hoopla, you can also search Hoopla. So I'm going to search Long Way Down. And I'm going to see that, in fact, they don't have the Long Way Down book or audiobook. Unfortunately, you know, like I said, we don't get to choose the titles that are in here, so we sort of buy the collection and what's in it is in it. However, if you were reading Long Way Down for school, there's actually a study guide for Jason Reynolds' Long Way Down. So it's kind of funny because sometimes you'll find the study guides for things that we don't have on offer in here. But what's cool is that you can see that there's a movie, there's eBooks, there's music, in fact, of Long Way Down. All of those are just title searches, so obviously they're not related to the book themselves, but you can kind of see from the icons all of the different things that are on offer. I really love this. I don't use it as much, but one of my friends always uses it for like new music, so they check out a CD and just listen to it over and over again. All sorts of fun there. Unfortunately, even in the advanced search, you don't get a lot of the options that you do in Overdrive or in the catalog when it comes to reading levels, award winners, things like that. You're pretty much limited to, you know, your sort of title and author keyword searches. You can look for series or publishers, languages, and then it does have both the publication date and the date added to the collection. So that is very nice. You can look at both new things and things that have been newly added to the system, and it makes the distinction between the two. So that is kind of nice. But they don't have some of the ones where you can see like just the reading level. Here, there's really just the kids toggle versus the non-kids toggle. So that is Hoopla. One of the things that I highly recommend for Hoopla is if you're browsing or if you're searching, as you come in here, take a look at the items that you want. You can, rather than going ahead and clicking on that borrow button and checking it out right away, I recommend putting a heart on it. So this is the favorites. So you click on the little heart and then you come up to My Hoopla and look at favorites. And once you've looked at everything that you've favorited, you can sort of decide, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't want to check out this. I want to check out these two, and that's what I want to look at. So I recommend using the favorites as you browse Hoopla because there's so much available, and you don't want to use up those 10 checkouts all at once, or run into something that you really want and then have to wait for another month in order to check it out. So that is Hoopla. It is a great resource because of the way they do the collection. It's not searchable in the catalog. So when we looked at those staff picks for audiobooks for teens, and we were seeing all of the different formats, when I came down here to Long Way Down, it would show me things that are available through Overdrive, but it does not mention anything that's available through Hoopla. So you can search the catalog for things that are available through CloudLibrary, through Overdrive, through EBSCO eBooks, which I'm going to mention in a second, but Hoopla items do not appear in the catalog searches. So you do have to go look at Hoopla separately. Kind of has to do with how they keep their catalog and how nothing's ever checked out. It's a little bit different, and so it's slightly separate. I sometimes just go and check Hoopla separately for what I'm looking for. All right, so a couple other ones that I just wanted to mention. Access 360 and Enki, there's sort of a way to access it. Got eBooks for all ages. Access 360 has an app, so that's available as well. Specifically for nonfiction books, and particularly the type of nonfiction books that you might use to do reports, those ones are available through EBSCO eBooks. So EBSCO eBooks has a really good collection of nonfiction, and not just sort of popular nonfiction that you might read for leisure, but really the sort of reference books or scholarly books that you might be looking for. So I do recommend that. That is a good resource for homework. All right, so are there any questions about the sort of e-media that we looked at, the e-books, e-audiobooks, movies, CDs, things like that? Feel free to drop it into the chat if you do have any questions. I'll stop and address it, or take a break at a point and answer questions if anybody has them. So let's talk about electronic databases. So databases are collections of material, and we have other online learning resources that are more than the collection of material. Oh, great question in the chat. Do we need to return these ebooks? No, and in fact, that is one of the benefits of an ebook, is that it returns automatically. So when your checkout is over, it disappears off your device and you don't have to worry about it. So right now, during the closure, we actually don't have any fines for overdue items, because we understand people are limiting their travel, they may be out of the area, things like that. But during normal times, you might have overdue fines for some books, especially like adult materials. Kids' books are fine free. But ebooks never have any fines because they go away automatically. Absolutely fantastic as a resource, both now and in the future. So e-resource databases are collections of materials. I think of them especially as nonfiction resources, as a substitute for doing research on the web, or as a complement to doing research on the web. So you go to these for articles from newspapers, from magazines, even from scholarly journals. So the type of journals that professors might publish their research findings in will appear in some of these electronic databases. Other types of electronic databases are databases to help you learn certain things, like technology topics or languages, or I'm going to mention a little bit later on, services like tutor.com. These are different from our e-media resources, I think, primarily in the fact that they're not intended necessarily to be used from start to finish. So you'd use a database to look things up, you might download a couple of articles, but it's not a start to finish sort of thing in the same way that you might listen into an entire audiobook or read an entire graphic novel. And in the case of services, you can dip in or out. There's no start or finish place to these. These are resources and tools that are available online. The other big thing is that you don't ever check these resources out. So you're never adding them to your card. Your card number gives you access to them, but it doesn't check them out and add them to your account or add them onto your card. They're just things that you have access to because you have a library card. One of the great things about these databases, especially when it comes to schoolwork or to reports, is that these databases that I'm going to be showing you always cite their sources. So they tell you where they get their information from. And if you're writing a paper that includes information that you're sourcing from all over the place, having a place that has these reliable sources can be very important. Sometimes teachers get into the habit of saying things like, don't use any online resources. And what they really mean is, don't just do a Google search and find a random web page and slap it into your paper. Who knows who wrote it? They mean use your information literacy skills, find something that's reliable. Well, these databases may be online, but they're different from a traditional just Google search or things like that, in that they will tell you where they were published. And in fact, they usually were published in print to begin with. Okay, so these are usually coming from newspapers that appeared in print, or magazines, or encyclopedias, or other reference books, or scholarly journals, all of which originally appeared in print. So they don't really count with teachers usually in the same way. And the other nice thing is they tell you where they came from, so you can write that all-important works cited or bibliography page at the end of your paper. Here's where I found all this information, and here's who wrote all this information, so that I can back up all of my points. Makes them invaluable for doing homework, and especially your longer papers, whether those are descriptive papers or whether those are argumentation papers or persuasive essays. The ability to cite and show your sources is fantastic for both of those. And as a little cheat, just in case you were wondering, a lot of times they have the citations you can download in any of the commonly used formats. So if your teacher prefers APA or MLA or Chicago style, they'll often have all three of those citation styles, so that you can just copy that little entry over to your work. So I'm going to start off with a set of databases. This is actually 5 databases. Collectively, we sort of call them the In Context series, or the Gale In Context. Gale is the name of the publisher. These come from Gale, but the information in them is collected from all over. Gale is the company that put these together. And they span sort of the social sciences and in topics areas. So you've got biography, US and world history, and then you've got a couple of databases which have a broader format, sort of global issues in context, kind of a broad format, and then opposing viewpoints in context. I find opposing viewpoints very, very useful if you're tasked with writing a persuasive essay, because they really make an effort to highlight some of those common persuasive essay topics, so that you can go back and forth and see evidence for both sides. Also really useful for debate, if you're doing op research for debate and you're part of a speaking club or anything like that. So I'm going to go online and show you the Gale In Context resources. I've been looking here under Books in eLibrary to that eBooks section, but I'm now going to go over here to Kids and Teens, and I'm going to go down here to Online Homework Help. So when we're looking at the e-resources, there is sjpl.org/e-resources, and that's everything electronic that we subscribe to, whether it's ebooks, e-movies, databases, online services. Everything is there under sjpl.org/e-resources. But that can be kind of overwhelming if you're just looking for things that you can use for school. So they created this homework help page, which has pulled out the e-resources that are most commonly used to support schoolwork, okay? And this includes things like article databases that pull from newspapers and magazines, a section of college and career resources, some general reference, and I'm going to come back to this. Then there's a history and biography page that has biography in context, as well as that US history in context and world history in context. So there's 3 of our in context collections. And then finally, under reading and literature, we come down past science, we come down to social science, which is where we get our global issues in context and our opposing viewpoints in context. I'm just going to open up opposing viewpoints in context to show you what it looks like. All of these databases have a very similar look, but they do cover different topic areas. When you first come in, it'll ask you to put in your barcode number and your PIN, and once you're in, you're all good. So here's their opposing viewpoints context. They've got some topical things, usually right here at the front: activism, civil rights, technology and education, all topics that we're really thinking about right now. Up here at the top, they do have a search. This actually clusters together opposing viewpoints and global issues so that you can search both at the same time if you wish. And then down here, they've got the ability to browse issues. So this is really fantastic because you can come down here and just sort of see a list of suggested issues, especially if you've been tasked with writing a paper that presents a pro and con or a compare and contrast, a persuasive essay of some sort, and you're just stuck for a topic, this is an absolutely fantastic resource. So I'm just going to come in here to business and economics, and I'm going to take a look. There's some new things here and then updated. So they actually flag out when they have updated or added new topics, which is fantastic, I think. I'm going to come in here to standardized testing just because it's been updated recently. For all of these subject headings, they do have this overview article here, which is really amazing. This article is not just a tiny little paragraph introduction. This article is beefy. I'm going to read more so you can see just how lengthy it is and how good of an overview it gives you. This is kind of like, I don't know, Wikipedia on steroids in terms of the ability to give you an overview of a topic and point you to more resources. And what's great is that this is actually something you can cite in and of itself. So if you're looking for an overview and your teacher does not want you to use Wikipedia, you can come over here, check out this introductory article, and in fact, get the citation right there for that introductory article if you're interested in using that. But then of course, down below the introductory article, they get into the real meat of this database, which is the vast variety of different types of materials they have available. So you can see just from here, they've got things from videos, audio, websites, academic journals, news articles, images, reference materials, even statistics, magazines. There's just a great variety here that they have. They highlight the things that are viewpoints, so those would be opinion articles, and separate them out from news articles or magazine features. Again, really fantastic, flagging up what is opinion versus what is fact or citation. So I'm going to come down here, just take a look. You know, we've got some images here, we've got some videos here, some little overviews. Like this highlights from the New York Times video collection a little a little video feature that the New York Times did on factors that affect standardized test scores. So this New York Times video is probably something that might come up in a Google search, but having it in here with just vetted sources is really great. There's definitely, you know, things that are in here that you would absolutely bring up with a standard Google search, but you don't know what would and wouldn't appear in a vetted database like this without using one of these databases. So I'm going to hop over here. A pandemic isn't grounds to abolish the SAT. And I'm going to come in here, the article commentary. So they actually wrote up a little commentary. This is a viewpoint article. And then, you know, so it has the article, it has the citation down here. There's even some things if, you know, you can download the citations. You can download the whole article, you can get links, you can actually highlight things and make notes on these articles right here in the tool, so you can come back and reference them again. And then there's like a section here that interrogates how you're reading the article and gives you some tips on how to read the article. So Gale in Context is a really meaty set of databases here in the social sciences, so sort of history, biography, current events and social issues sort of area. These ones right here that are these trunk, what I think of as like the sections or the topic headings, you can also just search for anything that you're interested in. So if I do infectious diseases, you see I've got these bold ones right here that have, those will have like a trunk article, a reference, and it'll be a collection. But I can also just come down here and search on something like infected patients. Okay, if I do that, I get more like a regular database view. So I don't get that same summary article, but I do get all of my references classified into groups. Sorry, it's taking a second to load up here. Let's give it a little second. Yeah, there we go. So you'll notice if you just search on a keyword and you don't pick one of those bold topic headings, you'll get like lots of resources. I mean, there's like 1,800 journal articles and so on and so forth. There's viewpoints, there's reference images, videos, just the same as those topics. But what it doesn't have is that summary sort of article overview at the beginning of it. So that's what Gale really adds in at these little collections and things like that. So that's Gale in Context. Like I said, you know, I think it's a fantastic resource, definitely worth taking a look at for history classes, for any sort of English classes or literature classes where we're writing persuasive essays, things like that. And like I said, if you have any questions about that, go ahead and drop it into the chat. So the next I'm going to mention is Explora. Explora goes beyond the sort of social sciences that Gale in Context covers, and it's a more broad database. So it has the same sorts of things. So it's got the same, you know, videos, magazine articles, newspaper articles, journal articles, photos, statistics as Gale in Context, but it will have them on a variety of topics outside of the social sciences. So it does have primary sources sometimes, as well as the sort of secondary sources like magazine articles and newspapers, encyclopedias, and scholarly journals. It also, like Gale in Context, has a variety of materials to help support research. So you can save articles, clip them, make notes on them, and so on and so forth, same as you can with Gale, and you can also download them and get the citations for them. Let's take a look at Explora real quick. It's back up here towards the top under general reference. You'll notice there's Explora for elementary and middle school students, but I'm going to go in through the high school student. The benefit of having these portals to Explora is that Explora sort of puts a top level filter on these so that you get sort of a more limited thing for the elementary and middle school students. So here again, it's got some topic articles that you can go into and take a look at, but the way I usually use Explora is to just go in here and do a search. So I'm going to do earthquake. Oops, I can't spell. As I start typing, just like with Google or some other search engines, it will give you a list of topics that you could choose. I'm actually going to go in here to earthquake engineering and take a look at that topic and see what it has. Unlike Explora, unlike Gale in Context, Explora does not have that really meaty introductory article, but if they have something that they've flagged up as an overview article, they will mention it up here at the top with a little light bulb. This topic overview happens to come from the Salem Press Encyclopedia of Science. So it's an encyclopedia article. It is actually pretty meaty as these things go, and it will have its own bibliography, and you can cite the article itself. So here's the title and the database that it came from. They will have like the ability to listen to it, so it will actually read it out to you, as well as you can translate it. I will say both of these are machine done. So if you really want to listen to a robot read you something in, you know, an American accent, I usually just read it. These unfortunately are not professionally read or anything like that. And again, the translation is a machine translation. However, if you are really interested in having it available in another language, you know, that is an option. But you probably are familiar with the reliability of machine translations. It's useful, but obviously it's not the gold standard for translations. You can see the detailed record here for any articles. So this will give me sort of all of the information about it. And then there's full text here. By default, Explora only shows you things for which it has full text. Now you can turn that off. So I'm going to go back out here from this overview article from the encyclopedia. Oops, I have to press backwards twice. And you'll see that full text is listed there and it's checked already. Now I didn't check it. Like I said, Explora does that by default. If I'm interested in seeing articles for which there's a citation, but there's not full text, I can actually uncheck that. So right now I have 721 articles. If I uncheck full text, it goes to 803 articles. So you can see you do get a few extra article things, and if you find a reference to an article for which Explora doesn't have full text, you can sometimes with the citation find that text of that article, sometimes on the publisher's website, sometimes even by contacting the academic themselves, or you can contact us at the library and see if we can get that full text article for you, because that's sometimes an option. I'm just going to go ahead though and leave full text checked. I have 700 sources for earthquake engineering with it checked, so that's probably enough for me. You can also come over here and adjust publication date. So I'm going to come here. I say, you know, I don't want anything that's more than 15 years old on this topic. So I'm only interested in things between 2005 and 2020. That limits me a little bit, but not tons. And then you can also choose things like source types, your reading level as determined by the Lexile level, and so on and so forth. You can, what I usually do here is to do this keyword search and to make these alterations over here on the left-hand side. You can go to advanced search and actually put in all of these things here. So I could put the published date 2005 to 2020 before I even do the search if I wanted to. But I usually just do search first and then sort of filter down. The other thing, again, because Explora is a really full function database for doing research, it has a search history here. So if you're like me and you'll occasionally like search something and then search something else and then search something else and think, wait, what have I searched already? This will actually show you everything that you've searched on. It will allow you to revise the search or to rerun the search, to view the details of the search. So that's really nice and a great functionality. I'm going to go ahead and rerun this search that I just recently did, because I also want to show you a little bit of those tools I mentioned. So you see here there's a plus sign there, so I can choose to add that into my folder, okay? And I can go up here to folder view, or you see it's got the link to folder view right here. Once I go into my folder, I can see my articles that I have saved here. You can also sign in and save these for a long-term session if you want to, or you can just save them during your current session without signing in. So that's Explora. Like I said, it's a really full function database that has material on a variety of topics. So unlike Gale in Context, which is really mostly social science, Explora has everything: science, medicine, technology, the arts, and so on and so forth. So it covers like a more broad range of subjects than Gale in Context does. I like Gale in Context because it does have that ability to really focus in on those topic areas where they've done some extra work for you and added some additional resources, which are really fantastic. So those are the two big databases that I sort of recommend that folks use during for high schoolers. I did want to mention we've got tutor.com, which I'm going to show you, and I also want to show you some of the other online learning options that we have. So this is out of the realm of sort of resource databases where you look up topics and get information about them, and more into online learning. So these can be entire courses or brief videos, things like that. Or as in the case of tutor.com, this is actually a tutoring service. So tutor.com is something that we pay for access to through the library. It's available with a library card. You get 10 free sessions a week during shelter in place. During normal times, we had 7 free sessions per week. So still pretty extensive amount of time. These are one-on-one tutoring sessions with a tutor that has been vetted completely. So these tutors will typically be college students, they may be teachers or retired educators, things like that. They've been vetted for their abilities and they've been background checked. So these are completely reliable and trustworthy tutors. I think tutor.com is great for both long-term and short-term tutoring. If you're looking to arrange a tutor because you're having trouble in school or your kid is wanting some extra help with certain topics, you can just do like a one-off session and you don't have to go through the whole process of finding and hiring a tutor just for one session. You can just use tutor.com. However, tutor.com will also let you add tutors to your favorite tutors list and request them again. So if you have a tutor that you find that you work really well with or that really clicks with your kid, you can actually request them over and over again and make a long-term tutoring thing. So it's great for both. Let me just show you really quickly. Oh yeah, I also want to mention they have a drop-off service for things like college essays, papers, and things like that. That lets, you can drop it off and then arrange a time to review it. You can do some writing review right in a tutoring session with them, but it's great to be able to drop off the piece of writing that you're looking at and then come back and schedule a time to review it with them once they've had time to go through it. All right, so let me show you the classroom real quick, what this looks like when you log into tutor.com. So I'm just going to continue here, and then you can choose to share audio or not. If you don't share audio, which I'm going to continue without sharing audio, you're limited to the chat here. If you share audio, you can obviously have a voice conversation with the tutor. There's no video conversations. So your chat window would be over here, and it would just appear as a normal chat transcript. It shows you the participants here. And then over here in this main area on the left, there's workspaces. So you can have like a whiteboard workspace. You can see it's kind of like, you know, Paint or something like that. You know, so you can doodle in and put pictures. You can add a grid if you need to. You also have graphing calculator. This is fantastic if you're working through math or anything like that. You have a code editor, so if you have any questions about coding problems or things like that, there's a couple of languages over here that the coding editor will support. And then finally, there's a text editor. Like I said, the tutors can do a little bit of text writing during a session, but you can also drop off a paper or an essay to be reviewed, and this would be a place to review it when it happens. If I go back here and go back to the whiteboard, you'll see that I don't have what I wrote previously, and that's because this supports multiple spaces. So I'm here under whiteboard 2. Whiteboard 1 will have what I had already written. So it's really nice because if you're working on multiple math problems, you can have multiple graphing calculators open. Same thing with writing issues or anything like that. You could have a couple of different writing samples open at the same time. So that's tutor.com. Like I said, I absolutely think it's fantastic for students to have that support to be able to make progress in school. Sometimes it's not even a matter of struggling in a class, it's just a matter of wanting somebody who will explain it to you in a slightly different way, hits you a little bit differently in the brain, and pow, you know, you've got it and it clicks much better. You're able to progress and do really well in school. So it's not just for struggling students or anything like that. The final thing, I wanted to mention was a couple of things here with Learning Express High School. This is a resource that's available in a couple of different places. First off, it's under College and Career. There's College Test Preparation and the High School Equivalency Center. And then down here at the bottom, there's a Test Prep and Online Learning. And they've got the School Center here, which includes your High School Center. What this is absolutely fantastic for, all of these are actually in the same thing. So if you want to, you can come here to centers and you can see there's the College Admissions Test Center as well. But for example, for the High School Center, they have things where you can practice math skills, read texts, take practice tests and things like that. So if I look at calculus practice, you can actually, you know, 501 calculus problems. They've got books like Calculus Success in 20 minutes a day. So and under college test prep, you know, you can prep for AP exams, you can look at the ACT. So there's tutorials, there's actually timed online tests you can take that will score it for you automatically. So in terms of test prep, this is absolutely something fantastic to take a look at for your student. Here under test prep and online learning, they also have a couple of other things like lynda.com. And then up here under languages, they have Mango Languages and Pronunciator. And these are more of those online resources that I was talking about. Lynda.com has all sorts of complete video courses on tech topics and creative topics. Mango Languages or Pronunciator has topics on language learning and language practice. So again, you know, these aren't necessarily things that you might use specifically to support you in coursework in the same way that you'd use like one of our article databases, but they are fantastic resources for continuing language learning at home, expanding your knowledge of technical topics, and so on and so forth. So that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. I know it's a lot. Here's those two URLs again. So sjpl.org/eresources shows you absolutely everything that we have available online, period, end of statement. sjpl.org/homework-help has those sort of shorter selection, the smaller selection of things that are specifically meant to support students in their homework, their schoolwork, their learning journey. So that was the page that I was mostly working off today. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you wouldn't mind filling out our program survey in the description box below, we would really appreciate it. We always love hearing back from folks who've joined us about what they did and didn't like and would help us improve our programs in the future. Thanks again for coming and have a great day.